Hello and welcome to my presentation for the Joseph in Egypt gameplay created in Java for BYU Idaho CIT 260 class. First, I'm going to talk about static versus non-static variables. Now, static can be referenced at any time within the program, and non-static can only be referenced for a single instance. An example of a static is this public static int calcland cost. This can be referenced at any time in the program, and right below it is another example of public static void byland. This too can be referenced at any time while the program is being run. Here's an example of a non-static instance variable. This is in one of the view menus where there are multiple cases and it will only need to be referenced for a single instance when those menus are being used. So that's a good example of when it's better to use a non-static variable versus a static variable. Next, we will talk about array list, and enum. Now, the main difference between an array and array list is an array is static and an array list is dynamic. Another difference between the two is an array is not resizable and an array list is resizable. So here's an example of where an array is used in the program. This is with where the maps is defined in the program. So you see that this array has two sections for each row, and you also see that there is a for statement in this array, and this defines how this will function within the program. This is in the view portion for the map. See the display map, and there are multiple instances where for is used. We have a for statement here, and that is for our rows and for our columns. And again, this defines how the array is being used in the program. Now, in our program, we needed to include exceptions, and this is a really good way to both program and see how important throwing, propagating, and catching is. Now when a method is being run and an error occurs, this disrupts the runtime in the system, and that's what an exception is. So a method will throw an exception, and the program will try to find something to handle it. So once the program figures out how to respond, that is when it catches the exception. So in our program, the Joseph in Egypt program, here is one of the instances where we programmed the exceptions. So you see that here's the exception method, And then here it says it asks to catch the exception and then calls to throw a new message. Now, this is how we program in Java behind the scenes, but that is not the message that is seen. This is just setting up how the exception is going to work in the program. So a language versus a byte, a character versus a byte, is how the program is read in Java. So it can be read in binary, but it can also then come across with either a character or byte. And the main difference is if it is a byte, it can have more of an option, more language capability. And then if it's whichever region or area the program is, it will adapt to the local character set for that program. So here we see in this Java program where it points to the character specifically. So we have this buffered reader, and then in the next line, new print writer. And so that is telling the character how it will respond in the Java program. Next, we will talk about the external files in the Java program. So in this game, we wanted to have the ability to save the game and then load a saved game. So the way we set that up, so here's the method save game, and here's the instruction to the user to enter the file path for the file where the game needs to be saved. And here we see the string file path and this .get input string. So we need to put in the correct string name, and then we have our try game control.save game to our file path. So that is how we save the game. And then to start the existing game, it's fairly similar, where we ask the user to enter the file path for the file where the game with that correct name is to be saved. Then we have our string file path, then try game control get existing game with the file path. And we will see in just a moment how that all works in the gameplay. So now it's time to show the game that we created for this semester. Alright, now I'm going to show the program that was created in Java, the Joseph in Egypt program. And so this is the welcome screen where it gives a little overview of what's going on, what you are doing as the agricultural overseer. And we'll put in our name as Billy. And if I needed help, I could say that. What's the goal of the game? Oh, let's learn who Joseph of Egypt is. So Joseph of Egypt is responsible for ensuring that enough crops are stored to suffice for the years of famine. How do I move to another location? So if we were to push XXX, that moves us to another location. So let's go back to the main menu and start a new game. And let's view the map. So this is what I showed earlier when I was explaining arrays. And this is our simple map of the Egypt area. So let's view a list. How many people do I have? Let's figure that out. Well, we'll check on that for you. Be sure to make them feel welcome. And they are all equally snarky. So we'll go back to the main menu and starting the game. So let's manage the crops. So land is selling for 32 bushels per acre. How many acres do you wish to buy? Let's say -1. And we have an error message. I'm sorry, master, I cannot do this. A negative value was input. How many acres of land do you wish to buy? All right, so we'll say 4. How many acres of land do you wish to sell? Because it is selling for 17 bushels per acre. And we'll say 2. Please enter the amount of wheat you would like to give people to feed them. We'll give them 1. Each acre takes 1 bushel of wheat. How many acres of land do you wish to plant? Let's say 5. And then we continue on with the game. That was 1 year. So this game is not a complete entity. It's only partially done. This is what we were able to do. Well, only a portion of what we were able to do in our group project building this Joseph in Egypt game this semester, but it was very enjoyable. We learned a lot and were able to help each other troubleshoot and learn, and the forums were also very helpful as well with the rest of the class. So thank you for watching and have a Merry Christmas.